Adam and Eve were taught by Enki and Ninki. She was known as Daminkina before she married Enki. She was also Alula's daughter. She was very upset when he was banished to Mars. But while Adam and Eve were learning and did have a longer lifespan than the Homo sapiens, they were trying to have children. The story of their children is written in the Bible about Cain and Abel. But the Bible mixes it up a little. We need to go back a little in time before Adam and Eve were born. In fact, we need to go right back to when Enlil first came to Earth to find out the true story of Cain and Abel. When Enlil arrived on Earth over 400,000 years ago, he took charge over Enki. But Enki had a plan. He asked his half-sister Nimna if she would have his child. That way, the line of succession would go to Enki and Ninma's son, because of the way their inbreeding allowed them to be next in line for the throne on Nibiru, Ninma being a princess and Enki a prince. But she failed to have a child with him. But there was a problem. Although Enki was the firstborn, and if he had a child with Ninma, his bloodline would be next in line. But the problem was that Enlil, who was Enki's younger half-brother, had already a child with Ninma on Nibiru. And when she came to Earth, she brought him. Ninurta, son of Enlil, was next in line for the throne because Enki couldn't have a child with the same half-sister. This was before Enlil seduced a very young Anunnaki girl called Sud. Enlil got Sud pregnant, and everyone was angry in Enlil because she was too young. Enlil was banished and Enki took over. But there was a twist. Remember when Alula first came to Earth and used a nuke on the asteroid belt to get past it? There were 7 more weapons on his craft. One of the Anunnaki pilots hid them on the request of Enki. But Enlil was banished to the place that Alula's 7 weapons were, and threatened to use them if he wasn't reinstated as King of Kings and the Most High here on Earth. Sud was asked would she marry Enlil because she was with child. She said yes, and Sud married Enlil, and she became known as Ninlil. But Enlil still had other children with his half-sister. Ninurta may have been a twin with Ishkur. He was also known as Adad, and more importantly, he was known as Entin when he was younger. That name is important because his brother Ninurta also had a different name when he was younger. He was called Emesh. As young boys, they were in charge of the sheep and grain which fed the Homo sapiens, because at that point there were only Homo sapiens and no Homo sapiens sapiens. The first were Adam and Eve, 200,000 years later. You might be thinking, Emesh, Ninurta, and Entin, Ishkur, were Cain and Abel from the Bible. Prepare to be blown away. No, they were not. While they did have to show their goods to Enlil, and he did choose who he said did the best for the term. That's where the Cain and Abel stops with them. Neither of them had a fight over it.
Here's a quick advert, then the rest will continue.
Dive into the extraordinary with 2 captivating books that unveil the mysteries of our untold history. From the Anunnaki to Atlantis, mermaids, pixies, black ops, aliens, Bigfoot, giants, and to the elusive men in black, unravel the secrets behind ghosts, crop circles, and much more. Be prepared for mind-bending revelations as the evidence is dissected from different angles, providing answers to the unanswered questions that have intrigued us for centuries.
Moving forward now, 200,000 years, which now makes Ninurta and Ishkur young adults, Adam and Eve have 2 children. They were girls, sisters. Their names were Ashnan, grain, and Lahar, sheep, granddaughters of Enki. Because they were Homo sapiens sapien, they were smart enough to learn to tend to the fields and sheep. Ashnan, which means grain, later became known as Cain. She was taught by Ninurta, who knew all about the grain because he was in charge of that for a long time. Lahar, which means sheep, was later called Abel, she was taught how to look after the sheep by Enki's son Marduk. When the time came for the first harvest, the sisters debated who was the better and more important, grain or sheep. They took their goods in front of Enlil. He thought long and hard, but said it was Ashnan, grain, that won this year. Her sister didn't like that. She was so angry that later that day in a field she had an argument with her sister. Finally, her temper made her pick up a rock and smash Lahar, Abel, until she died. Grain wept. What had she done? She stayed in the field all night with her dead sister. That night, Titi, Eve, had a dream that something had happened. The next morning she got Adapa, Adam, to go with her to the field. They saw the dead body. When Enki found out, he was furious. Enlil wanted Cain to be killed for doing that. Enki, the wise, thought about it, and you'll never guess what he done.
I hope you are enjoying these. If you want to watch the other episodes, or watch one of my thousands of documentaries, please visit ourtruehistory.co.uk. Please reshare or repost this. It really helps me keep researching and making content. Thank you. Our True History.